here we are today to talk about Akindi and how we use Akindi in both the humanities and in science courses. What is Akindi? Johnny, go ahead.
So Akindi is pretty simple. It's a web-based assessment system that's going to allow you to grade very quickly multiple choice summatives, formatives, whatever it may be. It's an online platform that's going to allow you to basically generate paper copies of a grid, and through those paper copies of the grid, the kids can just quickly fill out their multiple choice pieces of work, and very quickly you can scan, upload this to Akindi, and you get a lot of data from it in a very time-effective way.
Mm-hmm. Adding on top of that, we also get to test using multiple choice and Akindi a lot of content. Both of us teach AP courses, and so because of that, being able to truly check student understanding on all the different topics is difficult if we only have problem-based questions where they need to show their work. So multiple choice really helps with that.
One final thing too that I've always liked about Akindi is it's not built on one central spot that you need to use it. You can scan on any device, even using your phone, and submit directly into Akindi using an email address that they provide, or you can just go into the Akindi platform itself. So it becomes really easy to be able to use it anywhere, not just in one spot.
So one thing that we both really like about using Akindi and actually just the multiple choice format and printing it out on paper is it helps them simulate testing environments. We know that having students practice in the same context, in the same way that they write their actual AP tests, will bring the most benefits because they get a real life practice experience.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, although some may argue they don't love multiple choice, it is a part of the AP curriculum, and it would really be doing the students a disservice if we're not providing as close to the real testing experience as possible.
And so with that said, why should we use Akindi? It does make it possible for students to analyze how they think and how they process. After every test, when we run the test through the system, we are given an analysis report. So on the bottom left here, you're going to be able to see just how the students did on this specific summative. And the normal curve, we can see how the distribution is for the students overall, but also have data on individual kids. We'll see which questions were the easiest and which questions were the most difficult, which allows us to change our instruction depending on what it is that they need and where the gaps are. You'll even also notice that there are some questions where a lot of students got the same wrong answer, so that might be a specific learning gap. Or sometimes we have wrong answers that are just kind of a scatter shotgun kind of thing, where there's answers across the board, and so students don't really know the concept at all then.
Yeah, and from a teacher's standpoint, obviously right away you're able to see the areas that your kids perhaps need more support, both in the present and then even as you reflect in the future, you can think about how you can embed perhaps more work in that specific area that kind of was red flagged by Akindi.
We do have the option to email or print out all the answer keys to the students as well. And you also see there's a checkpoint here where you can show corrected answers. If you choose not to do that, it allows students to have a conversation about disagreements they have. So if they have two different answers for the same question, then they have a conversation about why before they actually see what the correct answer is. Here is a hard copy of the multiple choice test. So you're going to notice these are the same questions. One student did significantly more writing and note-taking on the test, whereas the second student did not, and they do have different answers for multiple questions. This also allows us to break down specific skills for test taking. So this is different from Schoology quiz, for example, where if it's done digitally, there's actually no way to go back and track how they did or why they made a decision. It's either right or wrong, but here we get to pinpoint where the gap is for the students, where the skill gap is, where the knowledge gap is.
Yeah, and so to clarify, Akindi itself isn't providing this. Akindi is just, the grid itself where we're submitting and having it do the analysis for us. Whereas this just, unlike Schoology where you may have the quiz uploaded already, we just print out the quiz or the formative or the summative in any way that we want. So in this case, printing it out just like they would see on an AP exam, and they just are able to work through it like they normally would for an
And
exam.
it looks like you're actually capturing the thinking as well. So I suppose if you're training them to take the AP tests, in that you teach them how to break down multiple choice questions. You can see there how they're underlining the key words and using those skills which you've taught in the class as well.
Yeah, and you're developing better habits. You know, when it is online, they just get used to not writing things out. They get used to thinking it through in their head, which leads to a lot of mistakes and a lot of times where they're just not sure where to go. And getting into this and even showing what Edmond's got up here is wonderful, because then you can show two kids and say, hey, although you're not getting marked for your work on it on multiple choice, you actually should show your work. You're gonna do much better as a whole. Eliminate those silly mistakes and more likely work through the challenge.
Absolutely. And in terms of creating a test, it does give us feedback on how valid and reliable our tests are, whether or not we're testing what we say we're testing, and just the construction of the question overall. So within here, you'll see a few analysis. The first one is best constructed questions, and they determine how good a question is by which students get it correct, and which students, so for example, the highest performing students tend to get most questions correct. And they'll determine how hard a question is and whether or not it's a good question if it discriminates between the high performing students and the lower performing students. So lower performing students likely that they did not get it correct, whereas high performing students do. And questions that need to be improved or there is intervention necessary is that there is no trend or correlation to be seen.
Or even in some cases the opposite. So you may have a question that weirdly has a trick to it, so that if a kid really understands what they're doing, they might get tricked. Whereas if a kid doesn't really understand, they might get it right. So you might see the weakest students get a certain question right, and all the strongest students get it wrong. And so in that case, they may say, check this question, it might be just worded incorrectly or worded such that it's not leading to understanding of the question, but it's leading to just kind of unfortunately, data going in the wrong direction than what you would like.
Absolutely. And here at this little table, what you're going to see is an analysis of each question. So you can see the question here is uniquely bad compared to the other ones. These ones we could probably improve on. And on top of that, we can also see how many students got questions correct. So if 70% of the class is getting it incorrect, it opens up a conversation about a learning gap. Or if it's a specific technique you need to be emphasizing more in the class and bring attention to. And the final thing is it really allows you to tailor and edit answer keys after the fact. So when you enter an answer key, there are multiple potential ways to give points. Each multiple choice question can be worth 1 point, 2 points, or 3 points, depending on difficulty, depending on how you want to structure it. You could say that it's a bonus points if you would like. But the other part is you can award partial points. So you could have multi-step questions and give partial points for correct answers. And you can also have them deduct incorrect answers depending on the test. Sometimes if they have the wrong answer, they lose points. And the final one is sometimes you just have a bad question and there are 2 or 3 potential answers that are correct, and it allows you to change the answer key on the spot. So here I could click A, B, or C. If they click any of these, they would be able to get the points.
And on those lines, in AP Physics 2, they have multi-answer questions. And so with Akindi, you can actually put multiple responses, and the kids need to get both of them. For example, A and B are needed. If they have A and C, they're not going to get the credit. So you have some flexibility there. And one other thing, which is nice, sometimes, of course, we know kids don't do a great job of bubbling, or they erase and all that. What Akindi will do is it'll flag any issues that you have, so that when you go back, you will actually see those and you can make a correction kind of on a screen like this, which will allow you to fix it so that you can highlight which question you actually see. And along with the kind of the flag, they'll also show an image of what it looks like on the student's submitted paper, so you can really see which one they're looking for.
And it allows you to have conversations of improper bubbling, which is also a surprisingly common issue for high school students. There are often students who leave blanks and they just don't make a choice, or other ones who bubble it in, maybe off by 2 bubbles, and everything is wrong for that reason, and it allows you to track that easily and make the appropriate corrections.
Yep.
So I think why should you use Akindi? It's all these reasons, but it's also very quick and very easy to use. All the setup takes, if you're rushing to a test, it's just the amount of time it takes to print 20 pieces of paper for your class. Setting it up is simply a matter of typing in the assessment name and how many bubbles you want, from 50 to 100. And then you could do all the editing stuff afterwards as well.
Yeah, you don't even have to put in the answer key yet. You can print out the sheets. And nicely, you can print out sheets that are linked to each student's ID, so you already have it pre-filled out.
Yeah. So how to get started? Create an account. On the top right corner, there's a Create Assessments button. Once you do that, it'll bring you here. You write down the assessment name. You write down how many questions you have. You can have multiple versions of the test as well. So if you have 2 or 3 versions, and even if it's the same test, if you simply change the order of the questions, that's a possibility as well. And so you'll still get that overall data. And one more thing, looking at data, you can look at it individual classes as well as across all your classes together as well. After entering the assessment details, you put in the answer key. You could skip this step if you're in a rush. Print it out, and you have them take the test, scan it through your printer, and simply upload it as a PDF. And that is it.
And just one addition there in the previous slide, yeah. So you can upload a scanned PDF, or you can actually send them directly to a specific email address. So if you just scanned a single sheet, and even with your phone using Scannable or whatever software, you could then just directly scan it to this email address and it'll pop right into it.
So with our multifunction printers, you could actually just type in the email address and then run all the sheets through it, and it'll just send it straight to Akindi. Oh, that's pretty cool.
I usually have it sent to my email, so I have that on file as well. But you're absolutely right. You could just send it straight to the email address and not even have to go through that extra step.
Nice.
Yep, we use it very, very often.
Very cool.
That is it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks very much. That's awesome.